You know what? Your CEO can probably recite the hurdle rate for every business unit from memory. Ask that same CEO which two roles are most likely to break that strategy and watch the pause. Look, they know their people. They've just never been asked to think about their people the same way they think about their money. Hey there, senior leader, and welcome to the Talent Sherpa podcast. This is where senior leaders come to rethink how human capital really works. I'm your host, Jackson Lynch, and today we're going to be talking about the two operating standards that are running inside your company today that nobody actually chose. And here's the thing that most leadership teams, they probably never say out loud. You run capital with discipline, and you run talent on habit. Now, the same executives in the same room apply one standard to where the next dollar goes, and a completely different standard to where your best people sit. And the space between those two standards is quietly costing you the strategy that you guys have spent all year defending. So if you've ever sat through a portfolio review that was razor sharp on capital and almost silent on talent, this episode is going to name the mismatch that you felt. By the end, you're going to have a diagnostic that you can run with your own organization this very week. But before we get into today's episode, I want to say thank you and a quick shout out this week to Jared in Atlanta. Really appreciate the opportunity to go back and forth with you over the last couple of weeks. And I'm just thrilled that you are a part of this community. And to everyone that's tuning in, whether you're joining from Tel Aviv or Waltham, Massachusetts, I appreciate you being right here. All right, let's get into this. Let me put you into a room that I've been in more times than I can count. It's a portfolio review. It's 3 hours deep. The CEO is walking in the room through capital allocation, and it's some of the sharpest thinking that you will have ever seen, at least in the last year. Which business unit gets funded, which business gets starved, where the next dollar earns the most. This is a CEO that can recite the hurdle rate for all 9 business units from memory. And they're making really important movement decisions accordingly. Then somebody asks a different kind of question, hopefully us. Which two roles in this company are most likely to break the strategy that you just defended? And the room goes quiet. There is a leader who knows the organization cold. The room goes quiet because no one has ever asked them to think about talent the way they just spent 3 hours thinking about money. And that silence is the whole episode. Watch how capital gets treated in that company. Every dollar has an owner. Every investment has a hurdle rate, a threshold that it has to clear to earn the money. And there is a reallocation cycle, a regular rhythm where the team asks whether that capital still is in the right place. And when that unit underperforms, the money moves and nobody in the room flinches. And they call that good business discipline. Now, in that very same room, watch how talent gets treated by those same leaders. Talent gets an org chart and talent gets a performance review once a year. And that's the machinery. There's no hurdle rate for pivotal roles. Most companies haven't identified them. There's no reallocation cycle for your best people. There's no regular movement where a leadership team looks at where its strongest operators are sitting and asks whether they are still in the seats that matter the most. We say that people are our most important asset, and we always mean it when we say it, and then we manage that asset like the one thing in the building that nobody is allowed to move. So here's how I think that plays out. Your strongest operator is doing beautifully where they are. And because they are crushing it, moving them feels disruptive, even reckless, so they stay. Meanwhile, the role that's actually determining whether the strategy works, the pivotal one, stays with whoever happened to be in the chair when the music stopped before. That feels like stability. In the moment, it feels like good judgment, if there's judgment there at all. But then you look at what has happened over the last couple of years. Your best asset is compounding in a seat where the returns are already good and hard to improve. The seat that could swing the entire enterprise is running entirely inadequate. Nobody decided that on purpose. It accumulated one reasonable quarter at a time. Now, we did an episode a while back on why shareholder value is really a talent problem, and this is the discipline underneath of it. It's worth going back if you missed it. So why does this persist inside of companies run by otherwise genuinely disciplined people? There are leaders who allocate hundreds of millions of dollars with real precision, and they don't do it here. So let me name where I think it might be breaking down. The first place it breaks, capital has an owner and talent floats. When a dollar is misallocated, there is a name attached to it, a CFO, a business unit head, somebody whose job it is to notice, highlight it, and move it. And when your best person is sitting in the wrong seat, whose job is it to catch that? Typically, the HR person owns the process. They don't own a deliverable. I think that should change, but that's a different issue. The business owns the results, and the reallocation itself falls somewhere in that space between them, where things, by the way, don't happen. Nothing gets moved. I think the second place it breaks is that moving talent has a cost that you feel immediately, and leaving it has a cost that stays hidden for years. And that makes it easy. Look, move your strongest operator out of a role that they're crushing, that they're winning in, and you're going to feel it the very same day. A team gets disrupted, a relationship gets strained. If you leave that operator right where they are and let the pivotal role run unadequate, well, the cost is just as real, only it's diffused and delayed. It surfaces 2 years later as a strategy that quietly underdelivered. People act on the cost that they can feel, and they defer the one that they can't. Does that happen every single time? And here's the one that most leaders, I think, miss entirely. The system is teaching them to do exactly this. The company built machinery for reallocating capital with a cadence and an owner and a threshold. It never built the equivalent machinery for talent. So when a disciplined leader manages talent on instinct, they are doing precisely what the system trained them to do. The habit is a design gap, wearing the costume of a personal choice. So let me offer you a different way of looking at this, because I think the way most leaders frame it is exactly what keeps us stuck. When a leader finally notices this pattern, they almost never frame it as a courage problem. They decide that they have not been bold enough with their people. They resolve to be braver next quarter. And then next quarter, it looks like last quarter. See the new boss, same as the old boss. That resolution goes almost nowhere because you cannot will yourself into a discipline that you don't have machinery for. You would never run a capital allocation on willpower and good intentions. You run it on a system, a hurdle rate, an owner, a cycle, consequences. A discipline always lives in the architecture. And from what I can see, it always has. So here's the reframe. That thing that you're missing is not courage. It is a design. Specifically, it is a design around talent density and talent portfolio optimization. Talent density, in my view, is the simple idea that carries enormous weight. It means concentrating your strongest people in a handful of roles that actually out-deliver enterprise value deliberately, in the few seats that swing the outcome, even when that means moving somebody who is willing and winning right where they are. Think about the logic that we have in college sports. If you were to have a junior who has been a good teammate and a solid performer, and they are in the starting lineup for your favorite college's basketball team, then you have a freshman that shows up on campus, and they're as good as the junior is right now, and they have a higher ceiling. In 100 out of 100 colleges, the freshman's going to play. You move the junior out because that player has more talent and can out-deliver relative to what the junior was doing in the role the junior was in. In business, we would take that same metaphor and we would wait until the junior graduates, and then we move on. That's what we do. Person either quits, or the role opens up through retirement, or that person moves into a different role. And now we're moving somebody into the chair that should have been in the chair the entire time. You see the logic? It breaks down. So the right play is to move the junior out of the way, make sure that you move them into a position where they can meaningfully contribute to the team, but you got to play the freshman. Capital allocation already does this on instinct. It flows towards where it earns the most. That's the entire logic of allocation. Talent almost never flows that way all by itself because talent has feelings and relationships and history, and moving it feels personal in a way that moving money never does. So now watch what happens when talent density becomes part of the same system that governs your money. The question stops being who deserves what. The one that you already ask about capital, it is my most valuable asset sitting where it earns the most for the enterprise? Or is it sitting someplace else that is comfortable and adequate? That's the question you ask about your money. Just point it at people, and it carries the exact same weight. Once you see it, and now you cannot unsee it. The gap was in the design the whole time. And a design gap, good news, is something that is for you to help close. So here's how you build a machinery. 4 plays. Each one, I think, lifts talent out of the realm of instinct and moves into the realm of discipline. Here's play 1. Name your pivotal roles out loud. The 5 to 10, start with 5, start small. Those roles where the quality of the person in the seat swings the entire enterprise outcome. Where being great versus good will have an outsized impact. Seniority doesn't put a role on this list. Neither does pay grade. the impact on the strategy and execution does. Sit down with your CEO and finish this sentence for each major piece of the strategy. If this role has the wrong person in it, the strategy breaks right here. Most teams have never written that list down. And the moment you do, you know exactly which seats are carrying the weight. Here's play 2. Give those roles a hurdle rate. A hurdle rate for a role is a clear answer to one question. What does this role have to produce for us to say the right person is in it? Define it in outcomes, 5 to 7. The result the role has to deliver for the strategy to hold. And now you have a threshold. And it's the same way every dollar of capital has a threshold. And thresholds, the good news is they make gaps visible. Play number 3, install a reallocation cycle for talent. You already run one for capital. Sometimes it's annual, sometimes it's every quarter, but take that same rhythm and build it for your pivotal roles. Once a quarter is what I would do. The leadership team looks at each pivotal role and answers one question. Is our strongest available person in this seat, yes or no? Binary. You're asking whether this is the best deployment of that asset for the enterprise right now. Ask on a cadence. That single question is the entire discipline. Habit becomes a system the moment it goes on the calendar. Play number 4, as Beyonce would say, put an owner on it. A cycle with no owner is a meeting that gets skipped the first time the quarter gets busy. Name who owns talent density across pivotal roles, the same way your CFO owns capital allocation. And in most companies that are playing at a high altitude, this is where the CHRO earns the seat. By owning the reallocation of the most important asset in the building and then holding the leadership team to the cycle. Ownership is what turns a good idea into a standard. And as you're thinking about how to build out your HR team, next time I go inside, I think my first hire is going to be a senior leader of talent density. And if I have to move people out of a HR business partner role for that effort, so be it. But I want someone who is going to bed and waking up every morning thinking about, do I know what the roles where I have an outsized value on the business results are? And have I done what I need to do to move the best people available, including from the outside, into those roles? Like, you run those 4 plays, watch what happens. You have handed your people the same operating discipline your money is enjoyed in that business all along. An owner, a hurdle rate, reallocation cycle. It's the same rigor. It's finally aimed at the asset that you keep calling your most important asset. Now, I know what just happened to some of you. You started the episode nodding along and up with people. People are our most important asset. And you are ending it realizing it's the one asset you've never actually managed like it mattered. That's an uncomfortable place to be. And I'm not going to pretend that it isn't. But if you do take one thing away from today, let it be this. The discipline that you already run on your capital is the exact same discipline your best people have never been given. And closing that gap is a design decision. It's not courage, not a matter of nerve. You can do this. So thank you for spending some time with me today. And I really appreciate you being a part of this community of senior leaders who want to rethink how human capital really works. And that's it for today. Until next time, keep raising the bar. Keep putting your best people where they earn the most for your enterprise and keep on climbing.